What is going on today, guys? We are back again with another video. In today's video, we wanted to share with you guys how to maintain, or 3 tips on how to maintain the humidity level of your tank for your green anole. Now, green anoles thrive at 60 to 70% humidity during the day, with it a little bit higher at night. Now, if it does dip below 60 for a little bit, that is okay. Just make sure to get the tank sprayed again soon. Now, there's a couple things that you could do to your tank, and that's where these tips are going to come in. There's a couple things you can do to maintain the humidity naturally within the tank to make you be able to spray less often, which is ideal if you have things you have to do during the day, like, work and go shopping and stuff like that. Obviously, depending on the atmosphere of your apartment or your house, some days are going to be different than others. Some days you're going to need to spray more often, some days you won't. And that's where, again, these tips are going to help you maintain that humidity level that you need. So you're going to need to maintain ventilation and humidity. If it's too humid and not ventilated enough, you will have mold and stuff like that, which you do not want. And to do this, I take advantage of aluminum foil, and that's our first tip. Is, guys, it's very cheap. You probably already have it at home, but aluminum foil, just folded a couple times to make it like not as flimsy, works great to be able to cover tops of tanks. So I have, obviously, on the top panel here, or on the first panel, I have half covered, half uncovered. The uncovered has got the heat source. And then in the back, I only have a small section covered because I want my UVV bulb to get as much light into the tank as possible. And but so that alone still isn't enough to normally maintain a tank. You're going to need to spray quite often still, but ideally you only want to spray like 2 to 3 times a day. Maybe once, middle of the day, end of the morning. Once first thing in the morning, and once late at night before you go to bed. Those are the ideal situations, but obviously some tanks are going to need to be sprayed more often, and some tanks are going to keep humidity very, very well. The next thing, before we get into, tip number 2, I guess this is tip 1.5, I guess, not related to 1 whatsoever, is substrate. Substrate, make sure you're using the right substrate, or you're going to fight with humidity. Something like wood chips are never going to let the humidity arise. Make sure you're using a substrate that is good for humidity. We use a sphagnum moss cocoa fiber mix for most of our tanks, and we would recommend that to you guys as well as kind of like a starter point. Now, tip number 2 is live plants. Live plants are very cheap. Just make sure to get a Reptile safe one that has no fertilizer, pesticides, whatever. Make sure they're good plants, and we've gotten a couple. So this is going to keep a natural humidity within the tank. So again, tip 1, aluminum foil. Make sure parts of your tank top are covered. Tip 2 is going to be the plants. Make sure you have live plants. We have 3 in this tank, which helps kind of keep the bottom half of the tank humid. And we can always tell because when the dial starts to kind of go below ideal, our anole normally moves to lower ground, and we're assuming that is to pick up more humidity. And that's kind of one of our key signs that we need to spray again. Now, tip number 3 is very easy as well, and that is going to be your water dish. Not only should you always have clean, fresh water there for a drinking source if need be, but the larger the water dish, the more humidity it's going to release. Just make sure to make it shallow. Anoles are not great swimmers, but make a shallow, large dish. You can even place it under the heat lamp, and that's going to release a natural humidity into the environment of your tank. Now, guys, again, that is the 3 tips, I guess 3.5 tips. Tip number 1, aluminum foil. Tip number 2, or I guess tip number 1.5, was substrate. Tip number 2, live plants. And tip number 3, water dish. Guys, Thank you for watching, and until next time, hopefully this video helped, and peace.